This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. Welcome to Women's Wealth Wednesday, where we provide you with specific information about your financial planning and retirement from Foster Financial. And joining me today is Caleb Doane, their Vice President. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Good. Okay, so we wrapped up an exciting series. Now we're going to focus on a whole new topic.
Yeah.
So let's talk about inheritance, spousal planning. What is that?
Yeah, good question. So essentially, we're going to have the probably largest wealth transfer in history within the next 10 years here.
Wow.
That's kind of the expectation, is that $30 trillion with a T is going to transfer hands over the next decade.
Wow.
And that's really because the baby boomer generation is pretty far along into their retirement at this point in most cases. And when they eventually pass away, there's either going to be a horizontal transfer from, let's say, a husband to a wife, or a vertical transfer from parents to kids. And so of that $30 trillion, women are actually expected to inherit the vast majority of that, because a lot of times, on average, women outlive their husbands. And so typically there's that horizontal transfer where now they're responsible for managing some assets. And maybe they were doing that before, maybe it was the husbands that were doing it before, but it's really important to make sure that women are prepared for that possibility of inheriting hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in some cases.
And so what would be the source of this type of income? Like, what are we looking at? Are you talking about life insurance that may come in, pensions, kind of break down where the money could be coming from?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of it is investment assets. So, 401ks, IRAs, retirement accounts that people have built up over time. Certainly life insurance is a piece of that. But probably the most common thing to inherit is going to be someone's estate, the value of their home, their investment assets, their 401k, their checking accounts, all that kind of stuff eventually gets passed over.
Yeah.
And so, in some cases, women might already be involved in their family's finances. They might be making some decisions. On average, it's a little more common for men to be more of the do-it-yourselfers, where they're managing their own investment assets for them, or maybe for their entire family. And so I think, a good first step is just to say, if you're a woman out there who's set to inherit either from your parents or from a spouse, do a self-assessment and say, am I ready to kind of make some of these really big financial decisions on a couple $100,000 or a couple $1 million, whatever it ends up being.
Okay, so self-assessment and then really prepare. So let's talk about that preparation process and what women can be thinking right now in this time.
Yeah, so I'd say if they feel like, hey, I want to be able to take a more active role in my family's finances, it's helpful to do that ahead of time, as opposed to trying to learn the ropes when, the pressure's on and there's all these big financial decisions that need to be made. It's helpful to learn some of that stuff ahead of time. And so getting involved with that ahead of time, maybe establishing a relationship with a trusted financial advisor ahead of time can be helpful too. Especially if the family right now is more of a do-it-yourselfer family, where let's say the husband is managing the investments on his own. If the wife isn't interested in doing that, eventually establishing a relationship with a financial advisor ahead of time can be really smart. And maybe they just have, half of their assets get managed by the advisor in the meantime, but that way, when that inheritance eventually comes, there's somebody that she can go to be able to bounce ideas off of and get some advice from somebody that she knows she trusts. Right,
that trusted part is so important. But so tell me, what do you typically see when it comes to how spouses have this set up? So do you typically see, let's say that the man manages the money, the husband, and he has the investments. Is the wife already included in that, in the sense of her name is on it, or do you see a whole lot of processes that have to go into place for her to actually inherit it?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that we like to look at far ahead of time too, is to make sure that she's listed as beneficiary on everything or joint owner on everything, because there are plenty of times, especially with 401ks, where you look at it and there's no beneficiaries listed. And typically there's still a process where she would eventually be able to get that, but there can be a lot more red tape if
Yeah.
things aren't set up properly ahead of time. So that's a really good first step, is to make sure that beneficiaries are listed properly, legal documents are all in place between wills, power of attorneys, trusts, and everything like that. But there are a lot of really big decisions that come within the first couple months of somebody passing away. And a lot of those decisions are irrevocable, and a lot of them have very big tax implications one way or the other. So I mean, a big decision like, hey, do I cash out this policy and take the money and pay taxes all right now, or do I, unwind that over several years and spread out that tax liability? There are a lot of things that as soon as a sale is made or a withdrawal occurs, the taxable event has already happened and you can't go back and change it. And so making a plan for that stuff ahead of time can be really helpful.
Yeah, especially because when a loss happens, you're in a different mindset.
Right.
So trying to make those hard financial decisions could really feel overwhelming, I'm assuming. Well, thank you so much for this advice today.
Yeah, thank you.
And Foster Financial is here to help you with your financial planning. We'll have their phone number listed below to give them a call, and I'll see you after the break. This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.